Hello and welcome everyone to this third intersection safety video where we're continuing going through the most common maneuvers one makes at an intersection. Which means in this video we'll be talking about making left turns at the intersection while using the 3-2-1 plan. Okay, let's just jump right in and get started. Now, being that this is the third video in this section, you should pretty well know that since I've reached the 3 vehicle length distance, that means it's time for step 1, my seeing habit, which is the sweeping scan. And after the scan comes step 2, speed control. Now, whenever I'm making a turn where I don't have to come to a stop first, there's something I need to prepare for called turning speed. Now, the rules of turning speed follow the same principle as step 1 in stopping speed, so it's nice and easy to remember. You just want to be down to a speed that's no higher than 20 kilometers per hour, which rounds to about 10 miles per hour by the time you reach 2 vehicle lengths from the intersection. But where it differs from turning speed is, once you've reached this stage where you've slowed to 20 kilometers, that's as low as you need to go to make a turn, unless something unusual happens that makes you feel you need to slow further, like there's bad weather, or you're watching someone walking up to the intersection that's making you a little leery, or anything that makes you uncomfortable turning at that speed. But otherwise, it's down to 20 and you're done. That's the big difference. And now for step 3, communication. Well, now there is something to communicate. I need to signal to let everyone around me know that I intend to make a left turn at this intersection. So this is the stage where I apply my left turn signal. Okay, a quick side note here. Do you know your hand signals? 'Cause you're going to need to for your road test. Now, an easy way to remember your hand signals is to think of it as you're pointing to where you want to go. So I'm going over to the left. I'm heading over to the right. And I'm either stopped or will be stopping in this lane soon.
And we now return you to our scheduled programming,
where I've moved along far enough now that I've reached 2 vehicle lengths from the intersection. And that means it's time to start back at step 1, which at this distance, the seeing habit is the quick scan. And then I'm back at step 2, speed control, and this is where I want to check my speedometer to see how close I am to reaching my turning speed goal of 20 kilometers per hour. Now, the reason that I want to start to brake nice and early is because I do not want to be braking when I start to steer for my turn, because braking affects steering in a very negative way. Now, when it comes time to start your in-vehicle lessons, if you feel that 20 kilometers per hour just feels a little too fast for you right now, well then go down to whatever speed works for you at this point. But make sure that you're down to whatever speed that is by the time you're 1 vehicle length away from the intersection. But don't allow yourself to stay in this fearful state for too long. Push yourself a little bit each lesson, even if it's just 1 kilometer per hour at a time. And then in regards to communication, I just want to double check my instrument panel to make sure that my turn signal is still active, which means that I will see my turn signal symbol flashing on the dash. I can't count on hearing the audible alert, which tells me my turn signal is still working, because sometimes loud noises can drown out that sound. So adding the visual check is the way to go. Okay, I'm now at 1 vehicle length from the intersection, so at this distance, I kind of have a lot to do with only a short distance to do it in. I still need to take care of step 1, which is the seeing habit my scan, but I also have things to do to set up for my turn. Now, earlier I mentioned turning point, and now we should go through it in more detail since there is a specific turning point for every type of turn. So the basic rule regarding the turning point for a left turn is you want to begin your turn one lane before the lane you want to end up in, and you must turn from the leftmost portion of the lane. So you must be mindful of this when setting up your turn. Now, a lane is roughly the size of one vehicle. Now, because the street is wide enough to fit 3 vehicles side by side, for this maneuver, you can say that the lane for each direction of travel is 1.5 vehicles wide. So, because you want to begin your turn one lane before the lane you want to end up in, you'll need to start into the intersection, keeping your vehicle straight until you feel that the front of your vehicle has gone the distance of about half a vehicle's width into the intersection. Then, at that point, you can now start to steer for your turn. And then you just need to look where you want to go and steer accordingly. Okay, so now that we've walked through the steps of the turning point, now let's go back to the 1 vehicle length distance and go through the maneuver from this point. So we're back at step 1 at the My Scan seeing habit, and since I also need to worry about my turning point, that means I can now multitask. So in my role as head multitasker, I'm going to switch things up a bit. Now, instead of thinking of each step separately, as a multitasker, I'm going to roll everything into one and ask the following questions. So first, I'll take care of the first area of the My Scan to check and see, is there any vehicles approaching that are worrying me? And then I'll start multitasking with number 2, where is the center of this new street that I'm turning onto? And that helps me answer the third question, which is whereabouts would my turning point be? And then I'll finish up by continuing on to scan the last 2 areas of the My Scan by doing a quick check of the area ahead of me and off to my right. So I've done my scans, I feel comfortable with my turning speed, and I've double-checked my signal was still on, and I believe that it is 100% safe to enter the intersection. So as I drive up to my turning point, my eyes are glancing between the area where I want to end up and the area of my turning point. Then, once the front of my vehicle has reached my turning point, I will then put all of my focus in on looking where I want to end up. And as usual, I'm keeping my eyes up and off the pavement, the usual 2 meters or 6 feet into the air. And then I'll begin steering into my turn. And now I'd like to show you 2 quick video clips to give you an example of what your steering will look like when you're making a left turn. So this first clip is using the hand-over-hand steering method. So it only takes 3 small pulls from roughly the 2 o'clock to the 10 o'clock position. And in this second clip, I will be using the push steering method. Okay, let's watch. Now, this method took 2 rather large pushes up from basically the 4 o'clock position up to around the 1 or 2 o'clock position. And then to finish my turn, once I'm settled and heading down the new street, I'll give my rearview mirror a quick scan just to make sure all is good behind me, and then I'll check on my speed to see where that's at, and then I'm done. Now, here's a quick rundown of all the steps in case you want to take a quick screenshot. And now that brings us to the end of making a left turn at the intersection where there is no stop sign. And now, before we move on, I just want to mention the Tidbits video 3-2A, steering methods for both left and right turns, which I'll be posting this Friday. So this is a great time to hit that notification button so you'll know exactly when it drops. Now, while we're at it, this is also a great time for you to reach over and hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, well, you might as well hit that button too. Okay, with all of that said, let's move on. So I feel like we've gone through the 3-2-1 plan enough times now that it should be making sense. And I worry that to continue going through it would just bore the heck out of you. So I'm just going to give you a rundown on what will change when you're making a left turn where you have to stop at a stop sign first. So starting at the 3 vehicle length distance, the only change is to step 2, speed control, where because I'm going to need to come to a stop, I will need to follow the rule of stopping speed. So as you know, I will start to slow to get down to around 20 kilometers per hour, which is around 10 miles per hour by the time I reach the 2 vehicle length distance. Then at the 2 vehicle length distance, I'm still working on my stopping speed with a new goal to try and get down to 10 kilometers per hour, 5 miles per hour by the time I reach the 1 vehicle length distance. And now at the 1 vehicle length distance, because I must stop before making my turn, my seeing habit changes to the rearview mirror scan. And also at this distance, I'll need to deal with step 2, speed control, which is where I'll finish things up by braking to a nice, smooth, relaxed stop. And then once I'm stopped, I'll go through the 8 checkpoints of the quick scan on a loop, going round and round as I need to. Then, if there were any obstacles, once they've cleared, I'll want to do one last my scan for my safety and to keep up my good seeing habit skills. Then I'll just drive up to my turning point as I'm looking where I want to go, and I'll begin my turn. Okay, so that takes care of turning left at the stop sign. And here's another look at this quick rundown of all the steps in case you want to take a quick screenshot of this one as well. Okay, let's move on to turning left at uncontrolled intersections. Now, here's an interesting one. As I'm approaching the intersection, I can see that there's a vehicle to my right who's roughly the same distance away as I am. Now, because this vehicle is to my right, they will have right-of-way, but I'm noticing that they have their right turn signal on. Now, here's the question. I'm turning left, they're turning right, so we won't be in each other's way. So can I just go ahead and make my turn? Now, it might be okay as long as I see something that guarantees me that that vehicle is definitely turning right. But the longer you drive, the more you're going to see people driving with their turn signal on as they pass street after street after street and they never turn. So, a safe-minded driver never trusts a turn signal. So there's definitely no guarantee. And FYI, if there is a collision, it won't matter if they had their turn signal on or not. They were to your right, so you'd be found liable. Now, for those of you who still need to do a road test, I would definitely wait until the vehicle to your right has completely cleared the intersection before you start your turn, because you should always be thinking about keeping your examiner nice and calm, and you don't know the temperament of this person, so you want to play it safe. Okay, now in this next scenario, I'm the one on the right, so I should have the right-of-way. But I'm going to keep my eye on the red car to make sure that they do give me the right-of-way, because there's a lot of people out there who still believe that if someone is turning left, they instantly lose their right-of-way. So I am super cautious anytime I'm the one making the left turn. Now, in this scenario where no one is really to the other person's right and we're equal distances away from the intersection, we'll now need to go to the next clue of right-of-way, which is to check and see if anyone's turning. Well, yeah, I'm turning, and if I was to do so right now, I would block their path of travel. So because of that, I lose my right-of-way. So I'll have to slow or come to a stop if necessary and wait for the other vehicle to clear the intersection before I start my turn. Now, in this case, where the approaching vehicle also has their left turn signal on, well, just as before, I do not trust that turn signal. So until that vehicle has fully committed, starting into their turn, meaning they're almost finished turning, well, until then, I'm not turning. And in the case where there is more than one vehicle approaching, then treat the second vehicle in the exact same way that you would have treated the first vehicle in the lineup. Okay, with all that said, we are done. We are at the end of making left turns at the intersection. Now, don't forget to check out the Tidbits video that I'll be posting this Friday, which goes into a lot more detail on the ins and outs of different steering methods that you can use to make left and right turns. And then next Tuesday, we'll get back to it, talking about right turns. So until next time, you take care, and I will see you when I see ya.